The first dance work I ever saw by Vanessa Cook was a compilation of video snippets of dancers suspended as aerialists. They were close enough to the ground that they could spin and crawl in pools of light on a darkened stage, but they were liberated from that perpetual adversary of dance, gravity. Titled Creature, I had no idea what the full piece was about. Actually, I still don't know. But I saw that it was using flying in gymnastic, circus like, theatrical ways, but it was thoroughly committed to dance and exploring new ways of moving. It was stupendous. I said to myself, who is the maker of this work? I have to know them. If they can make something this cool, what else are they making? Hello and welcome to an exciting episode of the Center Studio podcast. My guest today is choreographer Vanessa Cook, a British artist working in Switzerland. The occasion for our conversation is the premiere of her latest work, a brief collection of moments at the Utah Metropolitan Ballet in Provo, Utah. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Hello, Glenn. Really well. Thank you for that mention of Creature. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you.
I have to see that piece live sometime. I don't know how that's going to happen, but
Yes.
you can make it work and let me know, and I'll be there.
Let's do that.
You just got off a plane yesterday from Europe, so I want to thank both you and Jetlag for making this interview possible. Are you
My pleasure.
completely wiped out, or are you pacing yourself?
I'm kind of storming through. It's good. Maybe I'll crash in 5 days, but right now we're really doing well.
Yeah. Are you excited about the premiere? Well, of course, we're going to talk. We're going to talk all about that. But I
Yes.
wanted to introduce you to our audience first. The bio on your website, vanessacookdance.com, talks about your training in ballet, your detour into the study of philosophy and English literature, and then your career as a dancer and aerial artist. You established your own company in Switzerland in 2016, and since then have an impressive roster of works performed mostly in Europe. I was struck by the last two sentences of your introduction. Vanessa Cook Dance creates fresh, surprising dance theater, renowned for being reflective, moving, and humorous. The work comments on human interaction at an individual and social level in a way that is inwardly pointing, non accusatory, and characteristically British in its humor. So, what does that mean to you? Why did you choose those words?
So I think that art, by its nature, invites people to think about themselves and how they are in society, how they interact. And I've noticed living in Switzerland that uh, British humour is a thing. I do. I think that there is place for humour in life. There has to be place for humour, or we're all a bit lost, really. But yeah, I think that there's always place to smatter even the most. Maybe that's what the British do. Even the most serious of things, we give it a touch of humour, and I observe that's what I like. That's what I do.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how you would describe what your dances look like. In a general way, what kind of dance are we talking about?
Okay. So I'm working with lots of different kinds of dancers. The last few large pieces of work, I've worked with a mixed age cast. So sometimes I'll work with a performer. Maybe it's an ex-professional dancer who's in her 60s, along with 20-year-old breakdancers, or 40-year-old contemporary dancers. Sometimes a younger person, even younger than 20, um, is in my piece. So I like to use a mix of age and range because their bodies say different things. And mostly in my pieces, I want to say that the body can be so many different things. Yeah.
Okay. As you know, we're friends now. I come to dance from the world of ballet, which has a moderately strict vocabulary, of steps and a lexicon that choreographers draw from in endless new configurations. Modern dance and contemporary dance have some elements of that, but I guess I want to ask you about movement generally. How do you define contemporary dance?
That's a wonderful question. So what my spring point into dance was also ballet. So it was pretty clear, the vocabulary, and we learnt that. And I enjoyed the challenge of the technical, yeah, the requirements of ballet. So that's where I began. But I also had a lot of physical, like athletic desires as well. Physical, more well. Of course, ballet can be very athletic as well, but I did a lot of sport as well. So when I discovered contemporary dance, I think that contemporary dance can really benefit from the technique of ballet. It's served very well by learning line, by knowing where your center is, by being able to isolate, to be able to stretch. But then contemporary can break that as well. It is absolutely served by ballet, but I think the nature of being turned out in the legs, of course, we can turn them in again. The nature of having full extension can also be more relaxed. Um, we can try to integrate our spine a whole lot more. Ballet's so good at holding and being able to the legs can go at 50 miles an hour whilst the body holds, and then contemporary dance can kind of challenge that. So yeah, I think it's kind of like the rule breaker, and there's so many different styles. Yeah, it's the cheeky rule breaker, served by ballet and then can break it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of your university studies in philosophy and literature, but knowing you a little bit, they certainly are part of your personality. You're a deep thinker and like to draw from a wide range of ideas. Those two fields rely on language primarily to express ideas. What can movement say, though, that language can't say?
Ah, very great question. So, I what I love about movement is that it kind of speaks to its audience, from a visceral place, and an open place. It's very good at doing human emotions. It's good at emotions, relationships, um, yeah, feelings, in a way that maybe words can fail, or in a way that's different than words. But then, of course, words are so wonderfully precise. Of course, dance can be precise, but it's not the best art form for a political manifesto. And of course, words can be so precise. So it is true that I do definitely draw on my love of text. Um, and it definitely comes more into play more and more as I choreograph more. But I think text can, I love the marriage of the two. I think that text can supplement dance where it's staying abstract. And I think dance can supplement words where when words are trying to find a feeling. Dance can do it like this, so that they are very complementary, but also quite difficult to marry together without duplicating. But yeah, I do love them both. They're two loves. Movement will always be my love, and text, I love text too. So I'm constantly trying to marry the two together.
I've had this conversation a lot with painters and composers in particular, who sometimes have a difficult time describing what it is that they're doing because a composer, words aren't necessarily their primary way of expressing themselves. Some arts actually kind of step around language to get to ideas and truth. But
Yes.
with you, you were mentioning your love of text, and does text help generate ideas in movement for you? Or is there some other connection between words and their ideas and dance in the creative process for you?
Yeah, I think that words are really good. For me, they're a really good starting point. For f- Words can give ideas, and ideas can generate movements. So it's a really good starting place. But I've also often worked with um, text is also really great because it's got it's got meaning, like it's got individual meaning, and then it's got a more, like, the sentence has a meaning. But it also has rhythm, and of course, dance is very much about rhythm. So sometimes I like to use them in both of those ways. Like the rhythm of foreign language, for example. I made a piece called Babel, and we used a lot of foreign languages and used the cadence of the language as a soundtrack. But of course, there's this massive trove of semantic as well. And so how to use the semantic of it without duplicating and without simplifying, without miming, really. So taking a sense and a little smattering of meaning is helpful inside the rhythm. The two work together well, I think.
I've been in studios working with choreographers sometimes where the choreographer is not primarily verbal. Like, it's a
Right.
lot of showing, "Do
Right.
this like me," or, manipulating people to get them what they want. But then on the other hand, I've been with people who are very expressive verbally and give like, instead of saying, "Okay, this position or get to this movement," they're using analogies and symbols and visualizations to help a dancer get to that place. Have you
Yes.
noticed that in your own career that you're one or the other or a combination of them?
Mm. Um, I think as time goes on, because I'm working with dancers who have got a different movement vocabulary than I have, as time goes on, I like to use words. I feel like giving some material as a building block is really useful. So that but even if I was to choreograph every single move for every single dancer, they wouldn't do it as I do it because my body has its own, it inhabits movement differently because of the patterns I have in my body and the forms that I've learned, and who I am, my energy. So sometimes it depends how expressed the process is. If you're in a fast process, it's useful to have building blocks, and then they'll anyway transform it in their own body. Um, but then if you've got a little bit more time, um, Mm, or if you've got less time, sometimes it's easier for the dancer to generate material with stimulation, words, and ideas, because they can really inhabit that movement quickly. So I think a mix of both is really good, and depending on how long you've got, and depending on how the dancers respond, I'll tweak that, yeah, accordingly.
Well, let's jump a little bit to a brief collection of moments. It has text in it.
It
So,
does.
could you maybe describe a little bit about the piece and how it came together conceptually?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beautiful thing about when you start a new piece is are the parameters that you're already given. These are great because otherwise you just how would you begin? What do you choose of everything? So the parameters for this piece were very clear. We needed a sopranist, and we had access to a dance company, and a length of time, and there was access to an orchestra. I really searched some music to find what I would choreograph to. What would be my dream piece of music for these parameters? And I didn't find the piece of my dreams. Because also, if someone is going to sing, I think it's very, very important to pay attention to the words they're singing. I'm not a fan of using any old track, and I don't really know what they're singing, but I like the melody. Like the words are important. So it became because I've uh, liaised with Dylan, maybe more about the collective in a moment, but because there are six artists who've all been in the residency at Centre for Latin St. Arts. We I've talked a lot about working together, and we were already in the process of let's collaborate together. So inside that collective of six artists is Dylan Findlay, who is a composer, a musician, and we'd had lots of conversations in that last year. And the more I thought about it, I thought, I need new music. And I said to him, Dylan, can you help me find some music? And his response was, of course, well, don't use dead people's music, use alive people.
Spoken
So,
like a true composer who's alive.
so we started a conversation, and it became apparent that I couldn't actually find a piece that would speak to these parameters and to the topic that I was interested in. So that's how Dylan and I started in terms of music, and then of course we needed what was the singer going to sing. So it was a lot of discussion about what was the topic, and then we drew on Darlene Young, who was also part of our six artists, and we worked last summer over we worked over the summer with long distance. Darlene writing to a theme we would give her. We had lots of different themes that went through the piece. And Dylan writing according to those themes, trying to capture the essence of those themes musically, and me dreaming about choreography. And so the three of us would meet and talk and discuss and really try to find a common language, which in itself is really interesting. How when I say uh, I'm feeling the base of this is too heavy. Like what that means to me and what that means to Darlene and what that means to Dylan is really different. Or yeah, lots of examples of how the same work can mean very different things. So but this is where we began really last summer. Hot summer nights, windows open, long distance Zoom calls.
You know, I'm so glad that you're talking about collaboration because that was the way that I first became, familiar with you. I think the first time that we had ever spoken was the center did a virtual seminar or something, and you were there. And after it was over, people were asked if they wanted to, they could just hang out and network and chat and whatever. And you were there. And the thing about you that jumped out to me was your curiosity and friendliness. Like you wanted to meet everybody and you wanted to probe
Yeah.
pretty deeply as quickly as you could about what they were all about. And actually, I mean, I have to tell you, Vanessa, this is not how a lot of artists work. A
Mm.
lot of artists in a situation like that would be eager to tell how amazing they are to get the respect of people who are listening to them. And you were doing the opposite thing. You were like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm here and I'm relatively nice, but tell me all about you." And like, you were just really, really digging into that, which I loved about you. So giving, so communicative. I suspect you've heard this kind of comment about yourself before. Is that just how you're wired to be somebody who can collaborate?
I think it is. Yeah, I absolutely love to collaborate because um, ideas breed ideas. And if I just stay with myself, I'll just generate same-ish ideas. And I just love having a conversation. Somebody share something and my brain just kind of goes boom, boom, boom. It's more that um yeah, I'm genuinely interested in having myself be bent, be twisted, be like challenged. And yeah, I'm definitely a bigger fan of having new ideas offered by other people than regurgitating my own.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
I mean I think that's yeah, I think that's city life. Like you can have fast exchanges when you're in the city, you meet people fast. And living in London for 10 years definitely showed me this. But you go, you can have a great conversation, you come back, it transforms you. And ping, 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 and I don't have to follow every single idea I have, but I definitely love I love to be inspired. I'll anyway take their idea and find a Vanessa way of it. But I do really enjoy, yeah, I always have, and I think it makes life really rich to have someone um challenge you, twist you. Yeah, it's
I
fun.
find it really not just inspirational, but it's just infectious, this attitude. You know, later, after I had met you, you were awarded the spot at the artist residency at the center. You had mentioned that a little bit, but I think it might be interesting to kind of ask you, like, what was that experience like for you? Maybe if you could describe it a little bit.
Yeah, with pleasure. Um, so I arrived one of six artists, and Um, one feature that's really beautiful about the residency, there are so many, is that you're from different artistic backgrounds. So I'm not in a room with six choreographers. This would be a very different experience. I'm meeting different disciplines. And so there is already a vast um, wealth of experience and different ways of entering art approaches. So there's this massive overlap because you're makers, you create, and so creative processes. There are some crossovers, but there are a lot of differences. So there's already masses to talk about and to learn from. And I guess if I'm interested in other people's ideas, this was my idea of heaven. People just telling me what their processes are and what they do. So we arrived and um, we had a week together to follow our own projects that we'd proposed. But more importantly, I think the cross pollination of the experience is so rich. So every evening we came back and from whatever the activities were, our own projects and the centre's activities, or at the theatre, we went to galleries, we had presentations, we met artists, and then we would come home and we would have amazing desserts at home, and we'd have yes, we'd enjoy that whilst sharing ideas and a question every night that was proposed from the centre from Glenn. And these we would really start with these questions, and we would discuss, and we had notebooks, and we would go late into the night, really discussing um, our crossover. What is it to be a maker? What is it to connect to your audience? What do you think about? What's your challenge? All these questions that are relevant to everybody and yet differently um, relevant. So these discussions were just magical. And I must say that the six of us, I felt really, really lucky to be with this six because they are good people. They're really good. And I think in every career, there's, like you say, there's this desire to present what you are, whether you're an artist or whether you're a lawyer or whether you're a doctor business person. And what was beautiful about this experience was that these were six people who wanted to learn about each other, and also incredibly curious people, open, interested. They would feedback what someone had said to them, say, "Oh, I'm feeling this," or "Oh, you said this yesterday." So really engaged human beings, high level, emotionally available, emotionally intelligent individuals. And for me, perhaps another highlight was that I come from Europe, where my spirituality and my creativity, I don't really talk, I don't connect them externally. Of course, internally I do. So in this environment, I was able to connect them externally in my conversation, which was very, very rich for me and kind of paradigm shift for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just music to my ears. I just love hearing that. That's what our hope is for this residency. But you kicked it up a notch. I think of you, and don't take this the wrong way. You're a bit of a ringleader, and that's not a sense of control, but you're a gatherer. And you were saying, and you're like bringing people in and like making sure that everybody was feeling something and contributing. I just love that about you. And I remember really pretty clearly toward the end of it, you announced, "Yeah, we've all decided that we're gonna work together sometime, and we're gonna do something." And that's kind of taking things, like, to this next step. You've met everybody, you kind of get them together, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna, make something together. And then I heard through the grapevine, also called WhatsApp,
Yeah.
that you after the residency, you continued to meet. Like, you'd hang out and talk to each other, and I don't did you have regularly scheduled meetings or something like that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, tell me about that and why that was important to you.
Yes. So we still meet every month on Zoom, and it's a Sunday night. We schedule it at the end of the meeting. Have we got the next one? And we just check in with each other. And what's interesting is, we like each other, for sure we like each other, and we are friends, but we've all got our own friends and our own circles where we live. So the primary reason for meeting isn't really to check in about how your life's going. It's more to check in with each other's work. And of course, life comes out of that. But particularly Darlene Young, she's very good at sometimes offering a question in the group and saying, "Hey, I was really thinking about this," and we come back to being creators, and so we really celebrate what each other's doing, and the challenges. Sometimes there's more happening, sometimes there's less, sometimes there's a little more about life spoken, and sometimes there's more about art spoken. But also with six people, we th there's a lot to be discussed, between six people's lives. Um, and this means a lot to me because this is a unique setting. I can find myself in many social settings with different people with different backgrounds, but this is a unique one for me because this is my artistic connection, and these are my LDS artists friends who we've invested a lot of time discussing things already. We've shared, so I consider myself very rich to have this group. I value it a lot. I think we all do. Um, and we actually decided, let's make some work. So we were kind of talking about Dylan playing over in Ohio a piece whilst I hung on the wall of this massive bridge in Bern, whilst projecting some images that Justin and Michelle had generated with some text that would be on the projection from Isaac. And we were kind of in this process. And then and then the opportunity came to make a proposal for the Ariel Bybee Commission. So it just felt like we were doing this anyway. Shall we do this together? Here's a platform. Here's a framework. So that's how it evolved. And I also to say that I was inspired from, I think it was during COVID when you were doing these. The center was doing different webcams, web what do you call it? Web seminars.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a presentation by Jackie, and you remember Jackie
Jackie Leishman and Steve Peck.
Leachman. That's it, Steve Peck, absolutely. And they were talking about how they had collaborated on a large project, and they met, I think it was monthly as well, and they just met and they just talked. And that captured me. And I thought, I want that. I want to have an artist meeting. I want to just, of course, I meet with artists that I'm working with, but then that's really goal orientated. And I would love to meet with LDS artists. And I would love to have like a regular date. And that's what we've created. So thank you for that inspiration.
Well, and also thank COVID. The happy byproduct of COVID is we're all quite comfortable getting on a video chat with each other,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more in depth, maybe how the Utah Metropolitan Ballet premiere came to be, and who are the collaborators, and what those people are bringing to the piece that we're going to see soon.
Okay, great. So uh the Utah Metropolitan Ballet have got a dance company that invited the center to choreograph a piece on behalf of the Ariel, or in the name of the Ariel Bybee Commission. Um, so we decided to take the parameters of the project and to make a new piece of music. And Dylan was thrilled by this opportunity, and to make it also with a sopranist. Um, Darlene took up the challenge to write some text for us, and we decided to have Michelle Nixon and Justin Wheatley create something. These two artists are, well, just to say that each artist, I must say, all the six of us are really established in their own right. I have so much respect for each one of them. I think that they are all in their own circles, in their own worlds, just established and doing their own work. So um, Justin and Michelle have never made work together, and make very different work. So we invited them. We asked them if they would be willing to collaborate, and the beautiful thing is everyone was so open. Said, "Yeah, yeah, I sure if we can, yeah." There was an openness and a willingness, which is already really beautiful. And Isaac, who is an incredibly succinct and precise writer, I invited him to write about the project. So less at the beginning, but more during and towards the end, which he's now done. Um, and and then I had the idea of, at the core of this proposal is um, Ariel Bybee, who since passed, and who, the fact of her existence has created this voice. This person is now creating more work, more art, the opportunity to create something new. And to me, it felt like this absolutely needed to be acknowledged in a piece. The the power of a voice passed on or out of the darkness coming, and creating more and reflecting on the power that this one person has literally had. Now I'm here, a generation later, making art because of her. Um, but it felt like the whole work needed to come from this singer. So I wanted to really put the sopranost on stage and have her begin her voice, and have a dancer connect. So we have this solo voice, then a soloist, a dancer, also connect, and so the solo becomes the duet. But also this singer is kind of this dancer. So she physicalizes this body, this voice. Well, because we have access to a large dance company and a large orchestra, this idea of this single voice augmenting, becoming more than its singleness, and becoming bigger, bigger and bigger and growing. So we grow from one, which becomes two. We follow the Fibonacci sequence. We go from one to two to three to five dancers to eight dancers to 13 dancers. And then it would be 21, but we have 17 dancers at the end. And the same with the orchestra, to start with the voice, start with a little bit of orchestration to grow that. So this was the idea it's really the power of a single voice. And what we did then was take the numbers and we said, yeah, that there's a single, and then what does that say? Well, one is just the singleness of discovery, a discovery of the self, of the place. This person is the soloist is here, and then another person comes along, and what's different about the number two than the number one? And it's like, yeah, there's push and pull. There's now like connection. I can experience me through you. So we played with this idea, and Dylan tried to explore that musically. Um, Push and pull, like and one meeting another. And then what's the difference between number two and the number three? Now we've got asymmetry, and um, there's more push. There's more something's a slant. There's always it's not symmetrical anymore. We've always got a two and a one, and what does that mean? So we tried to make the music a slant, and the words that Darlene uses is something a slant, to tickle and to tangle and to triangle. And then what's the difference between three and five? And then five for us seems like this. Wow, it's a group now. It's not just a three. It's a group, and in a group we have power, and we can dare to do more things, and we're pushing and we're trying. So this became our daring section, and then the five becomes eight. And what's that number? Number eight for us is really solid. It's harmonious. It's like the round number of music often. So we wanted more into a moment of harmony. What happens for this one person when she's in a group of eight, and we find this harmonious moment. And then we jump from 8 to 13, and 13 feels really asymmetrical, awkward. It's not fitting. It's the odd number. And here we talked about tension, and we go into the text talks about not having um, the demands of life, basically, and the conflicts, and the not having enough resources, and modern living. And then we jump to the next number, which actually is seven, but for us it's the crescendo. And then in this last section, it's the idea of, yeah, after discovering all these different moments, these different qualities of moments, we find it's rolling, it's working. Like we figured it out. We've been on Earth long enough to know, okay, I can roll. This is how I am, and a kind of a yeah, kind of a summary of all those stages or ages or whatever, and then we get to a place of it works. I get this. I know how to work. I know how to connect, how to be part of a group, how to manage tension. We are working together. It's kind of so really it came from the numbers. Like, what do the numbers mean? So the text reflects that, and Dylan really played with that musically. So section section one is a little bit arrhythmic exploration. Section two, we go into a two rhythmically, and then into a three. And then when we go into a five, we go into five eights, which is really interesting to work with as a choreographer. And then we go into eights, which is round. It's regular, more regular. And then we go into the 13 eights, which is again, it was a really interesting, it is a really interesting time signature to work with. Um, yeah, and I don't think at UMB they'd worked with 13 eights before. I haven't either. So we're enjoying that. And then at the end of the piece, we kind of reverse everything, and we use a little reverse mise en abîme, so like a mini summary of everything that we did, or that this life, all these chapters of this life, and we reverse it all, but fast. So you revisit every section in reverse, and at the end, we're left with the single person. And it's a little bit, we're born alone, we leave the world alone, and on the way, we have all these collections of moments with different people. And at the end, we're back to the single again. But there's now an image that has slowly, hopefully imperceptibly appeared um, on the back at the back of the stage. It's projected, and this is the artwork from Michelle and Justin. And yeah, they photographed their artwork, and then we've made a film of it. So you shouldn't. Hopefully, you won't see. You watch the dance. There's no object. There's no subject in the painting. They really painted a space and a place. And the subject of the painting are the dancers and the changing constellation of dancers. But at the end, you've got this single dancer and the single soloist um, looking back. And there's this sense for me that as we're living, as we're collecting moments and collecting groupings and social connections, we don't really notice necessarily the fabric or the artwork of our life that's created. But at the end, there's a wonderful thing of retrospect. When you look back, it's like, oh, this stuff happened. Yeah, I didn't really notice, but there's this this creation. My life was created, and hopefully that's the intention of having this slow reveal of this painting, which starts very really with Michelle's sketch, and then her first bits of very wide kind of space, place, lands, and then Justin comes in with these very strong vertical lines, much more urban. So we have this kind of tabula rasa at the beginning, which becomes very slowly a kind of space, and then more clearly a space, and it's a more natural environment, which becomes more urban. And in the end, you have the mix of these axes and these feelings from these two artists, and hopefully the thought that yeah, life unfolds without us noticing it, and it creates this incredible complex um, life work, artwork. Yeah.
Well, that does really sound so exciting to me. I can't wait to see it. Tell me about Utah Metropolitan Ballet. It's a company that I didn't really know too much before. How did you get to meet them, and how did that process work, developing something together?
Yeah. So, the Utah Metropolitan Ballet were introduced to me through this commission, and we first met online. Jackie College, she's the founder of the UMB, and we met. She invited me to do some Zoom sessions actually last autumn. Um, so this was interesting because I've never really.
That was like company class or something?
So
Teaching,
I
you mean?
watched. No, actually, it was I watched company class just to meet the dancers, and then she invited me to choreograph per Zoom before I came here. And so I prepared a lot of material with the music that we'd already finished. Actually, I think we'd finished the music already by September, and then I choreographed for kind of 2 weeks on and off with the company, um, which was super interesting. Probably got COVID to thank for that as well. That I can come really really close and I can look at the whole room and then say, Enzo at the back, stretch your leg a little bit more when and I could kind of spot and our eyes are quite trained online. So somehow, um, running back and doing stuff and then running forward and watching them, we found a way together to choreograph per Zoom, which was a first for me. But then arriving here this year, for a few weeks of choreographing in person, it was invaluable time. A really great move from Jackie to propose that she had some time, and I'm in Switzerland, and so why not start choreographing already? And this was really smart. And then about Jackie, I think that Jackie is incredibly open, and I what I feel from her is I feel a lot of support from her, which you don't always feel, but I really feel like she supports me. She also really understands what I'm trying to do, and she asks really good questions. She's rehearsed the company whilst I haven't been there, but yes, she was in all the rehearsals, really, really watching what I did and checking in with me about what I want because obviously she would take over when I'm not there. And yeah, I think Jackie's really incredible actually because she has these dancers who are very technical. They've got great ballet technique, unquestionable. And yet I've come in and I'm not doing just ballet. I'm trying to tip them off their axis a little bit. I'm trying to integrate their spine a little bit more. And she's really supportive, and the dancers themselves are also incredibly respectful and hardworking. And I must say, it's not always the case, and it makes work really a pleasure. They just go and they keep going and they keep going. And yeah, there's not a lot of pushback, and often there's pushback with artists. They'll have more opinions, but there's not pushback. They just try it, and I really appreciate that about them.
Yeah. When you're trying to give them movement that might be different from what they know, how do you know how far to push them? Like, if somebody were to try to get me to do something and my first try might be kind of awkward, but eventually I might kind of get it. But like,
Yeah.
how do you do that balance of trying something new and getting people to see your vision a little bit and mix what they already know with some things that they don't know?
I think the Zoom sessions, these 2 weeks during, in September last year, they were really useful because for sure we tried more things than are in the piece. So this was it's always almost my favorite stage of any making process is the early process when everything's open, everything's possible, you're just throwing everything out there. So I tried a lot of things with them then. Yeah, so my job isn't really to turn them on into contemporary dancers, but at the same time, my movement is definitely coming from a contemporary place. So it's about trying to find out where we can meet in the middle. And there is an absolute willingness from the dancers to try, absolutely to go in. And also, my job is to see what are their strengths, and now let me try and find a balance between what they are immediately good at and they're immediately strong. They're very precise with counts. They're very good at creating unison together because of their precision. They understand themselves in space very, very well. So I wanted to draw on that and work with the big group and also challenge them. So we've got a version, something in
All right.
between. I think ballet dancers will say that's not ballet, and contemporary dancers will say that's not all the way contemporary. We're somewhere in the middle between the two.
Right. I think most people in an audience don't exactly know how a piece is constructed. Like, I mean, how it's how it starts and develops. They probably imagine that a choreographer walks into a studio with like this book of step one through step 4,000 or whatever, and just teaches the people all the way through. In your situation, I have a feeling that that's not exactly how you choreograph. So I would be curious to know how you come up with steps.
Definitely bring the big book. I love a good notebook, but that's full of ideas. And then once we start, the first stage is I do give building blocks. I did give quite a lot of building blocks to them, and then we looked at the quality of what they were doing. But probably more interesting to me as a choreographer is when I give them tasks to create things themselves. Um, so, for example, there was a moment where I wanted to create some duets, and so I asked the dancers. I did give them some words. I said, I really want you to intertwine. So we talked a little bit about negative space. So if two people are together, I'm here, this other person is here. We've got some negative space, right? In the like the air that's not used. So I said, I really want you to try and um intertwine is the word. It's, everything's possible. Use what you want to use, but also nothing is too ridiculous. So let's just see what you come up with. And they made really some really beautiful material, everybody, because everybody can make, and whether they're younger in the company or older in the company, they when they just don't think about using just the steps that they've learned all through the technique, they they can mix it up and they make really beautiful stuff. And for me, these are the most beautiful moments to see what they come up with. And then I feed back on what they've done. And then they feed back and it goes a little bit more back and forth. But then just kind of went around the room, which is also a pleasure to have so many people in the room and really picked bits from each person. And then we cross pollinate and they learn this and then we add that to here. So this is the most interesting part of choreography for me. It's a mix of what they do and what I think and growing it together. I like doing this a lot. I appreciate a human being diving into that with me very much.
One of the things that I like about dance is the awareness that they are doing stuff on stage that I could never do in real life. I don't know what that is exactly. If it's a leap, if it's a pirouette, if it's a partnering, like, these are if it's balance, if it's what extension, all of those things are things that I can't do. So in a sense, it's like virtuosity, the question of virtuosity. They can do things that are amazing to me. When you're working with these dancers and you have such a limited time, how do you even decide? You intuit what virtuosity is like for this person, what they could potentially do? How does that work?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yes, you're watching all the time. Everyone's in a different stage of their creativity and technique. So sometimes, yes, I had definitely a sense of um who can inhabit this movement like I can imagine it. And so obviously I've chosen a single dancer at the beginning. And I've chosen Jessie, who I think she's got really a lot of movement in her body. She manages to really integrate a lot into her spine. And not just Jessie, I had to choose one person, and there were a few I could choose. But you're watching and you're trying to see who gives you something back how they give you the material back. Um, and at the same time, I do want to use their virtuosity. There's, there's no point trying to make them do completely new stuff and not be comfortable in that. So the virtuosity is definitely what they can do. I established quite quickly what they can do really well. Like for me, for me, I am always moved. I love it. The last section, the crescendo section, I call it the rolling section, where all the dancers are on stage. I love the words. I love the sense of the words. It talks about um, uh, ride out your life, like just do you know who you are? This kind of inhabit yourself, basically. And I should read the words. I'm not doing justice to them, but the words are really strong, and I believe in them, and the music is very inspiring, and it's kind of like getting on a train, and it goes and it goes and it goes and it builds and it builds and it builds. And in this section, I really wanted to have a strong allegro section, so I really wanted to see quickly who's jumping high, or how are we jumping? And let me find my jumpers, and then just use everyone, and then to make the patterning interesting so that the audience's eye kind of can't really understand exactly what's going. I want them to not understand what's happening. I want them to be surprised. I want them to not grasp it. So trying to make um use their skills in a complex, interesting way with the patterns. Yeah. And finding those that can do what? What can they do?
Yeah, and that's, of course, aside from all the stuff that they're bringing internally
Yeah.
in their energy and,
Yeah.
that all that
Yes.
kind I wanted to jump back a tiny bit. So it has 17 dancers, a singer on stage,
Yes.
an orchestra.
Yes.
That's doesn't happen every day.
Yes.
That's really a luxury.
Absolutely.
And then, you're one of these collaborators of visual, music, and
Right.
text. So that's
Mhm.
quite a big group.
Yes.
Many of those people are LDS people, so let's talk a little bit about that. You're
Mhm.
an LDS person, your
Yeah.
collaborators are LDS. I presume that some of the dancers in the UMB team are as well.
They
What
are.
does it mean to you to have members and colleagues who share this thing with you that's probably hasn't happened that many times in your career?
It's never happened. It's never happened before. Um, it's Rachel Morris is going to be the singer, and she came into the studio a few weeks ago, like last time we were together. And what's wonderful is that I haven't heard the orchestra yet, and I can't wait because they will be rehearsing separately, and then we will come together. So what's beautiful is we're coming together in parts, like, slowly. And when Rachel came in, we just had a short exchange, and of course, she's juggling her life, who happens to be a mother as well. And I recognize that creature. I know that creature juggling art life with these other roles. And she came in, she sang, and the dancers' jaws kind of dropped when I'm with these dancers, and when a topic comes up and it becomes clear that they're LDS. I do have to just also, my eyes widen a little bit. I know these creatures. I don't know them all. We're different, but we've got this commonality, and I find that beautiful. Um, it aligns me somehow. It really aligns me because I don't have to compartmentalize anymore, and I'm working with these people in a way that I would anyone in Europe. It's not just that it's okay because they're LDS. These are artists who are excellent in their own rights, and So we're working in the same way that we would, rigorously, hard. We're interrogating. We're really trying to find what it is we're exploring together. And we're LDS, and this is, I find it very beautiful.
Well, this was my vision for this whole organization. And sometimes people don't get it. And they'll say, what does that matter? What does that matter if they're LDS? Or the flip side of that, you can only call it, LDS related art if they're making devotional work, if it reads automatically as a religious piece. And I'm like, that hasn't been my experience in life.
No,
That's not me. And
no.
so what you're saying feels very validating
Yeah, yeah,
to me. So
yeah.
I really appreciate it. And I really think that, what you were saying about in Europe, how you have a religious life and you have a professional life, and you haven't really drawn on the two of them often to make artwork. Um, that's probably not entirely true. My guess is that you're bringing quite a lot of values
Yes,
into your artwork, but
yes.
but but in an obvious way, it's probably not apparent to the people around you that that you have a religious connection as specific as it is. They probably just ascribe to you good things, you know,
Maybe.
and not give credit to the religious side for the creator of those things.
Yes,
I can't wait for this premiere. It's, we're talking on April 14th, and the premiere is the 23rd. I'm gonna be there the 23rd flying in, and I'm gonna see it the 23rd and the 24th. But,
yes.
this is a pretty high profile premiere. I mean, I'm doing press for it, later today. How do you approach it? Like, do you have a set of goals? Do you have a vision for its conception? But how do you decide if the thing was successful? I mean, what does success look like? I have so
Ah,
many questions, as you can tell.
yeah, wow. What does success look like? Well, I just read some notes from when I was last here, and I wrote a list of that things about this project that I'm grateful for, and what success? There's a longer discussion to be had, but in terms of, if a successful project is a successful collaboration, I think that we've been successful, and I thank you actually for creating the opportunity from the center. I think it's, you and B exist, I exist, you exist, but we don't connect, and we're connected through this, and that I find that really beautiful. And I'm very grateful for that. Um, uh, have the artists learned something from each other? Yes, absolutely. Have we considered our audience? We really have. Um, but have we tried to stay true to what our vision is? Yes, we have. We're trying to. Will it be successful if everybody loves it? It could also be unsuccessful if everybody loves it. It would be a very lovely byproduct. I hope that the audience can connect with some of what we're doing. It's for sure not Tchaikovsky. It's a new piece of music. It's for sure not classical ballet. But I hope that something can be communicated. I hope that some people can recognize something in it that touches them. Um, we're trying to be true to the ideas, and we definitely generously collaborated and feel utterly supported from the opportunity. So I really thank the center. I cannot say enough good about it. There's amazing work happening, and yes, it wouldn't be happening without a vision. So thank you, Glenn.
Well, you're very welcome. This is why I get out of bed in the morning. So, everything that you said just makes me feel really proud of you and your collaborators and the work that the Center for Latter-day Saint Arts is accomplishing. The Center Studio Podcast is a monthly series of extended interviews with artists who are LDS, now in its ninth year. It's become a repository and oral history for some of the culture's finest and most interesting people in all of the creative arts disciplines. A quick look over our roster of interviews will certainly grab your attention, and I invite you as listeners to check out additional interviews. I think they're pretty amazing. Recent interviews are also on YouTube, and I'll post Vanessa's website so you can check that out. Thanks to you all for your support. The Center is a nonprofit arts organization that receives funding from important foundations and philanthropists, including many individuals who contribute to its diverse events, programs, and publishing. Many of our offerings are free to the public, which is quite amazing, and you can learn all about it by going to our website, centerforlatterdaysaintarts.org, and visit our platforms on social media. Thanks again, Vanessa. I am so excited to have to go to the premiere and also just to talk to you. And I can't wait to give you, probably the world's largest hug. I take care.
You too. See
Goodbye.
you soon.